So how's it going, motherfuckers? You know, I go on the video for Doris of Suicide Silence and I defend them. I say I legitimately enjoyed the song. I thought it was different. Guys, I've done my review on Saint Anger. I've done some reviews on other albums. I'm pretty open-minded. I talked about Metallica. They changed their style. I was fine with it, but for fuck's sakes, this new self-titled album is a giant fucking heap of fucking shit. It's garbage. And I will say that the best song on the album is Doris. And I didn't hate that song. I really felt like Eddie was going, the vocalist, the new vocalist. There's a lot of people that bash Eddie and say he's not as good as Mitch, and I actually have to say I prefer his voice to Mitch. No disrespect to him, he was, great, but you could see that Eddie was really carrying on Mitch's new sound that he was giving Suicide Silence on the Black Crown. With that last album before he died, you could tell that he wanted to bring the band in the different direction. A different deathcore sound, not pure deathcore, but an alternative sound, and that was, it was noble to break away from that deathcore sound that a lot of people, people are affectionate towards certain bands. A lot of people's favorite band might be Suicide Silence, just like it's Metallica for me, and some people don't want them to stray from a certain style they feel comfortable with. Of course, after a couple of albums, 3 straight albums, you're gonna, be surprised when the band suddenly changes its sound. So I think Eddie got blamed, strangely enough, for a different style of sound. But you can't stop me. The first album that Eddie participated on, that was a great album. And when you compare it to the Black Crown, there's not really a lot of difference between those albums, but I think that Eddie's album was better. You Can't Stop Me, I think, was a better album than the Black Crown. Just saying, that was my opinion. I thought that he sounded better in that style, better suited for that style of vocals, where it wasn't all-out deathcore, but a lighter version of it. So, when they came out with Doris, I really didn't have a problem with that song. I thought, okay, hey, they want to try to go for something a little bit in a different direction. And it shouldn't really surprise people as much, because you could see that usually that's how albums go. Usually when you see a band starting to take a more alternative turn, they're usually going to head in that direction and explore it even further. And as you guys know from Saint Anger and beyond, I'm all for experimentation. I like a lot of the experimental tracks on, Hardwired to Self-Destruct. Different sounds for Metallica, different sounds for different bands. If you were a fan of, say, Iowa from Slipknot, and then you listen to Volume 3, the Subliminal Verses, chances are you might hate that album. I remember the first time I listened to that album, I didn't like it. I didn't like that style that Slipknot was giving us, clean vocals. It seemed very bizarre to me. I wasn't ready to adjust to that style. And all of a sudden, I started to like it after repeated listens. And that's how it, that's how people will say it. And that's true a lot of times. I didn't believe that at first. I thought that was bullshit. How after repeated listens could something get better? That is true, and albums do get better. And the same thing was with Hardwired to Self-Destruct. There was certain tracks on there that I didn't really care for. You could probably even go back to my review, and you could see that I didn't really like certain songs. And then I started to really, like certain songs on that. After I listened to them, it's just certain things click after a while. You don't notice certain touches in the songs, and then you start to appreciate them. So that could be the case, with a lot of albums, but this one was instantly, I just thought was terrible. This is a bad album. It's really fucking bad, and it's terrible. So you could tell, just like with bands like Whitechapel, usually when they do the self-titled gig, and it's not their first album, they're usually looking to change things. They're usually looking to start over. A lot of bands have done this. They've started over by just simply naming the album the name of their band. I've noticed the trend. So this album, though, they have gone further to the alternative side, and it was really funny that Corey Taylor got brought into the comparisons for Doris, but after that song, I hear a lot of Jonathan Davis in this album, and that's not a good thing. Eddie does a really, really shitty job of imitating Jonathan Davis. And I'm not, opposed to a band sounding like another band. I've said in the past, imitation is the most sincerest form of flattery. If you could sound like another band and you sound, good at it, I say go for it. There's certain bands like Night Rage that sound like In Flames, for example. A friend introduced me to them. And it's a great band. They sound exactly like In Flames to me, but hey, they're still good. So why hate them? The songs are different, but they're similar. I don't really have a problem with two bands really sharing the same sound. But this is a really shitty, tribute or trying to be like Korn. I don't know what it's supposed to be. I don't know why they did this. Doris was fine. That was a good song that they were trying to, change your sound a little bit, sound a little new, sound a little fresh. So it's not the same growled vocals on every track. I get that approach. But like I said, this is experimentation that didn't need to be. This is not the type of experimentation that I like. This is not the type of experimentation that's good for this band. It's actually really bad for this band. It's not good. It's a really, really bad sound for them. And a lot of times, it's just very quiet on this album. There's a lot of points in the songs where they go really, really low, and then all of a sudden, break out and get loud again. And it's very Cornish. It's like they're trying to go for a nu metal sound. But it's not really quite nu metal, because if it was nu metal, at least it'd be exciting. It'd be a little bit more energy driven. There's not a lot of energy on this album. In fact, it sounds quite fucking lazy. There's energy in Doris to open it up. It's a good opener. Like I said, if you're going to try to change your sound, that was a great song to go, and present to your audience. That, like, hey, we're trying something else new. Just, of course, like I said, I did it in my Metalheads Suck video. I said that, a lot of times people just... Metalheads are unbearable. Metal fans are unbearable. A lot of times they won't give anything a chance. If one band is unpopular or sounds unpopular, they have to mimic, the popular crowd. Even though they're supposed to be anti-mainstream, they act very mainstream and very stereotypical. So I never really got that. Like I said, they still suck. I still stand by that opinion. But I guess this time around, people kind of knew it was going. But I guess, when you that negative all the time, I guess you're going to be right. A broken clock is right twice a day, you could say. And that is the case with Metalheads. They gave Suicide Silence a tough time. But boy, oh boy, this album, it really does. It sucks. It sucks bad. It's not fun to listen to. As a fan of them, as a big fan of them, I listened to the whole entire album, and it was one of those tedious chores. And I'm sure a lot of people know what I'm talking about. You listen to the album because you're a fan, you want to listen to it, you feel like, if you're like me, you're like a completionist. You gotta get through the album, you start listening to it, you just can't stop right there. There's very few albums, there's very few, movies that I've, just completely stopped watching them. There's very, very few. Usually I could I could usually muster it to the end. And I did with this one. And, you know, I can't really say I'm sorry I did, because at least now I know how bad it is. I mean, I could go back and listen to it again, but I just don't see any need to. Because usually there's albums that I didn't really like, I didn't necessarily hate. I hate this album. I really genuinely dislike it. There was just nothing on here. There's one song on here where I can't even recall the name. I probably don't even want to recall the name, but I need to in order to talk about it. It's the song that's called Hold Me Down, Hold Me Up, whatever it is. And you can hear some of the classic Suicide Silence in that song, and you want to hear it so badly. You want them to return that style, but it fades away. And in that particular song, you guys probably know what I'm talking about. That the name of that song, Hold Me Up, we'll say it's called. He just goes on a tirade in this song, and it sounds like a fucking mess. It sounds almost like, in that particular song, it sounds like a caricature of deathcore. You know, when people make fun of it, you know, and they just say it's all screaming and yelling. It is the perfect caricature. If you're gonna, like, make a mockery out of deathcore or death metal, and you were gonna, like, you know, make a song mocking it, that would be the song. It's really that bad. It really is. There's so many points on this album where it just goes completely off the fucking rails. There's, like, these parts where it's so soft. There's, like, no energy. Even you notice, like, in even slow parts, there's still a certain amount of energy and interest. And even clean parts on certain, like, aggressive albums, like, say it's Slipknot or something, where there's a clean part, you just feel like it's just totally dull, and it's like, I don't know, there's even such few songs on this, which I think this is probably one of the shortest albums to date from them, with 9 songs on here. At least, that's the version I have on Spotify. They just, like, put out a bunch of songs here, and a lot of them actually sound very much alike. They all have the same formula to them. And they look, like I said, they were going for some type of Korn style. But it's like if Korn was super boring and Korn didn't have any energy. And if Jonathan Davis sucked as a vocalist. And that's really sad, because I really like Eddie as a vocalist. I think that he's really talented. I think he's awesome. I saw him live. But that's another thing I want to mention. I'm not going to see this band live if they're going to perform the songs from this fucking shitty-ass album. This is absolutely terrible. It's almost embarrassing. It's almost like there was no quality control on this album. How do you go... I have to say this. I've never seen an album this bad, usually. Usually there's, like, redeemable factors. I gotta say, I'm pretty closed-minded to certain genres of music, but I'm pretty open-minded when it comes to certain bands. But this is like, I just can't believe that they went like this. Like, they've completely jumped the shark, to use that expression. I can't believe that they actually put this out and thought that this was genuinely, like, a good effort. Like, you would call an effort if they actually put any effort into it, but it really is not. There's no interesting riffs. It's all boring riffs. There's nothing really good. There's a couple of solos, and they're really just not good at all. There's nothing good here, really. Aside from Doris, like I said, I thought not that it was a great song, but it was a good song. And it was a nice change of pace. But, you know, if all the songs at least sounded like Doris, that would be fine. But it's almost like I don't know what they were going for here, so I'll only describe it as that. A really bad Jonathan Davis impression with some type of weird new metal, but very softer sounding new metal. And when all other 8 songs besides Doris sound about the same, that's what's weird about the song, like, Silence. It really is a very silent album. It has this weird sound where it's like, it's like, you could understand, you could see, like, when a band like Metallica goes in a different direction, they still sound like Metallica, they still hold that quality, but no, this doesn't even sound like Suicide Silence. They just went so far in another direction. They went too far. It's like, come back, you've gone too far. You know, You've went way, way, way too far out into experimental territory where you're just losing yourself. You're like fucking floating in space, and you don't even have like a fucking cable attached to you. You've floated so far away from the fucking space shuttle. It's almost crazy. Anyway, guys, this album is absolutely terrible. It's like almost unbelievably bad. I can't even believe that they even put this out. I really can't. Anyway, guys, if I had to rate this album from 1 to 10, I'd give it like a fucking 2. Seriously, I mean, it's bad. I'll give it a 2 because of Doris, but all other songs are complete fucking shit. Alright, motherfuckers, until next time.